The Kansas City Chiefs absolutely destroyed the Baltimore Ravens, and it was cathartic not just for the team. Obviously, it was cathartic for the team. You saw the results on the field, but it has been cathartic for the entire fan base, which is kind of a strange thing to say, considering this is a fan base that has gone to 3 consecutive Super Bowls, 4 of the last 6 Super Bowls, absolutely, or 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls, my fault. But how this is the fan base that needs catharsis, I have no idea, but we work ourselves up into these tissies, and that is where we are. But we are here today to talk about some of the things that we can take away from this performance on the offensive side of the ball for the Kansas City Chiefs, because I think that there are things that are not just a result of the fact that the Ravens have one of the worst defenses, if not the worst defense, in the Professional Football League. And here is one of those things. The offense can still do it. It has been a while since the Chiefs put up this type of offensive performance, and it has been a very long time since the offense put up this type of performance, and so did the defense, meaning that there was an extensive margin of victory. The defense played well, the offense played well, and the defense stopped points, and the offense scored points. Remember, were it not for a big run against the B-teamers late, that game would have been even worse. Were it not for Harrison Butker having another weird case of the yips, that game would have been even worse. This could have been a 40-13 type of game, which is about as blowout an atmosphere as you get in the NFL. They say that winning is contagious, and we have seen that with these Kansas City Chiefs going on to win 15 games last season. But it seems to me that so too are styles of winning. We know all about the Kansas City Chiefs and the one-score game, yada yada. But they learned to win that way, and they kept winning that way. They would start late, they would make mistakes, they would let the other team get out to a jump start, and then they would win the game anyhow. Just like when you were in school and you got homework over the weekend and you waited until Sunday night and you did everything that you could do really, really late. You remember those days when you were a kid. You'd put all the homework off until after football Sunday, and then were you really putting in the effort that you could have put in? Were you really learning all that you could from your homework? That's kind of how the Chiefs were playing football games, letting the other team have their way for the first 3 quarters before figuring it out at some point. If this is a new type of winning for the Kansas City Chiefs, I think that it can happen just this fast. Just the same way as every once in a while when you were in school, you promised yourself you were going to do your homework, and by God, once in a while you got it all done on Sunday night and you spent the rest of the weekend willy-nilly. It wasn't enough to make you learn. It wasn't enough to make me learn that homework should be done early, but maybe it is for the Chiefs. Maybe they can adopt this new habit of starting off better and ending the game strong as well, because those are things that actually happen. Learning how to win and learning how it is that you are winning. Xavier Worthy is important. Surprise! How big a part of the game plan had he been? Well, this is interesting to me. I pulled up Xavier Worthy's statistics from last season. Remember, started 13 games, played in all 17 last year. Had 98 targets, 59 receptions, 638 yards, had 36 first downs. Those are sort of the key metrics there, right? All season. 17-game season. That is what he did last year. In a single game, Now, these numbers are rough. Roughly 10% of the targets he had all of last year. Roughly 10%, probably 8% of the receptions he had all year. Over 10% of the receiving yards he had all year. About 8% of the first downs that he produced all year. Xavier Worthy, losing Xavier Worthy when they did, was not just unfortunate for the Kansas City Chiefs. It seems by the fact that Xavier Worthy has already, in a single appearance this season, put up about 10% of the production he did through 17 games last year, suggests that Worthy was going to be the centerpiece of this offense, at least until it was that Rashee Rice got back. Now, we saw really good results in this game because of it. It wasn't just the fact that Xavier Worthy had 5 receptions for 83 yards. It wasn't just that he provided 3 first downs receiving for the Kansas City Chiefs. No. It was the fact that when Tyquan Thornton and Xavier Worthy were on the field together, you could tell the defense was different, even if. So, notably absent from this video, the running backs. I have no notes on the running backs in this game because I'm still figuring out what to think about them, because they didn't do poorly, and Brashard Smith is kind of coming to life, but they were not a positive in this game, which is a real shame because Xavier Worthy and Tyquan Thornton opened some things up for this offense. And if there was anyone on the field that could have taken advantage of it, this game could have been even uglier, even faster. But back to Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy put up 10% of last year's production numbers. 8 to 10% of last year's production numbers. And that's in a single performance. We saw in Rashee Rice's second season, the first 4 games of that year, the emergence of what looked to be one of the better receivers in the NFL. Now, I'm not particularly sold that he is. I think that he is a Rashee Rice, a very high-end number 2 receiver type of guy, a guy who does, oftentimes in the NFL, pass for a number 1 wide receiver because the team does not have a true number 1. He looked like one of the better receivers in all of football because of the force multiplier that is Patrick Mahomes. Are we about to see an acceleration in the game played by Xavier Worthy in the same way that we did with Rashee Rice last year in a season that was preempted by that injury? Rashee Rice was on target to be the NFL's number 1 guy in both receptions and yards. Could we see Xavier Worthy, as he emerges from this injury, really take off? It is, I think, tempting to look at what the Kansas City Chiefs did last season, to look at what the Kansas City Chiefs did the first 3 games of this season, and say, yeah, something's just not right. And it's easy in that circumstance to forget, yeah, Xavier Worthy is a good wide receiver. Rashee Rice is a good wide receiver. When they're not in the lineup, you're left with Juju Smith-Schuster, who I like as a person. He seems to be weighed down by years of nagging injuries that have built up in an extensive NFL career, despite the fact that he is still on the right side of 30. He's been in the NFL, I believe, since he was 21 years old. Those things wear on your body. Juju Smith-Schuster, we could see it, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, several times where he made a catch, and hey, that's awesome, right? The same catch would have gone for 10 to 15 more yards had it been Rashee Rice on the receiving end of it. You can just tell that this offense is primed to explode in that way. We have now seen the Kansas City Chiefs with Xavier Worthy on the field, with Tyquan Thornton having been broken into Patrick Mahomes' proclivities, that yeah, this offense is going to be able to move the ball. I talked a little bit in the game, the one thing we have to do game, or video, where I talked about the Bills game and the way that they really took advantage of that Ravens defense was sort of 5 to 15 yards downfield, the middle range against that defense. And yeah, that's exactly what the Chiefs did as well. The averages across the board for these wide receivers was really good. Xavier Worthy is going to keep pushing that further and further. Xavier Worthy was turned a little bit into a possession type receiver last year. That is not going to be the case this year. He was turned into a possession type receiver because he was all the offense really had. He is not this year. Josh Simmons, moving on, did not have a perfect game, and he didn't have to. You see here his pass blocking grade versus the Ravens was a 71.1, still very good, but he gave up a sack, he gave up 2 hurries, and he gave up 3 pressures. Certainly not a regrettable game from Josh Simmons, but giving up the first sack of his career versus what was a bit of an underhanded, or a shorthanded, Baltimore Ravens defensive line is disappointing. I think that he would have rather, if he was going to give up a sack, he would have rather done it last week against the Giants, very good pass rushers, etc., right? But you see, with a 71.1 pass blocking grade, he still had the second best pass blocking grade of the season for himself, following the Eagles game, where he scored an 87.8. Now, he has played on the season 250 snaps. 4 games in. 4, 8, 12, 16. You're looking at a guy who is on pace to play 1,000 snaps for the team as a rookie. This is the future of the left tackle position for the Kansas City Chiefs. Josh Simmons is going to have some ups and downs. Josh Simmons struggled against the Giants in the pass blocking and the run blocking, scoring a sub-50 score in both of those departments, but bouncing back to have about a 70-70 performance. 71.1 pass blocking, 69.4 run blocking. And that cannot perturb the Chiefs, and it does not look like it's going to. The sort of the shaky thing that we have seen along this offensive line is not whether or not Josh Simmons will be on the field. If we want to talk about whether or not someone will be on the field, maybe we start talking about this next person. But Jawaan Taylor did not have a great game, but I bet you didn't notice. Jawaan Taylor with a 46.6 pass blocking grade. Did not give up a sack, gave up only 1 hurry and 1 pressure. So where did it get so bad for Jawaan Taylor? I'm assuming that this all comes from assignment grades, because neither did he give up a penalty, neither was he called for a penalty in this game. So Jawaan Taylor had the least frustrating game of his entire season, but also the worst graded. So, look, I mean, take PFF grades for what you will. I mean, they're not perfect, whatever, but they do give us a starting point from which to talk. I have no problem with the performance that Jawaan Taylor put up on Sunday. PFF does. So here's what I have said. I don't think that Jawaan Taylor will be benched for anything that happens between the snap and the whistle, or for anything that happens between the whistle and the snap. I think if he's going to be benched, it will be during the play stuff. It will be from snap to whistle. I haven't really seen any of that. 1 hurry, 1 pressure in this game is just not is not the reason. And when you're talking about stuff outside of the play, the penalties, I don't think he's going to get benched for that. Then we have the next point here. Don't look now, but Kingsley may have been your best offensive lineman in that game. An 88.2 pass blocking rate. Now, I know a lot of this has to do with the fact that Kingsley is lining up on the inside, and that's where the Ravens defense had all of its injuries. I believe it was 3 defensive tackles were out. So take it for what you will. But Kingsley did not give up a sack, a hit, a hurry, or a pressure in that game. Whether or not the Ravens have a good defense, whether or not the Ravens have their starting defensive tackles, I don't care. And here's why I don't care. The Ravens' 4th defensive tackle is an NFL defensive tackle. The Ravens' entire defense, it was injury-ridden and got more injured as the game went on. I understand that. But it's very well coached. You're trying to tell me if there was a weak link along that offensive line, as weak as everyone tries to make Kingsley Suma out to be, that Harbaugh couldn't have exploited it? I do not believe that. And the final thing to talk about here, Juju is important too. We had him have his most targets thus far of the season Sunday with 6. We had him with his second highest number of receptions, tied for his second highest number of yards, and we had him get a touchdown on that game. He also saw the most snaps of any game that he saw this season with 57. Now, part of that is the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs played a lot of offense in this game. So the Chiefs get back Xavier Worthy, the Chiefs get back Jalen Royals. Are they suddenly going to find themselves sidelined for a resurgent Juju Smith-Schuster in the 3rd leg of his career? I don't believe so. But he was on the field an awful lot. Juju Smith-Schuster is... Okay, so Tyquan Thornton is probably the most interesting case and point for when Rashee Rice comes back, because the guy has proven that he can go deep. The guy has proven that he can be a deep threat, that he can take the tops off of defenses, so I don't think you can really take him off the field all that much. Juju Smith-Schuster is a close second. Very, very interesting case for what will happen with Juju. He has 151 yards through 4 games. You're looking at a guy who's on pace to have over 600 yards on the season. Not number 1 receiver stuff, but certainly contributor level stuff. Certainly second or third option level stuff. And I don't know where he falls on that depth chart. Once you get Rashee Rice back, he's the X. Then you've got Xavier on the field too. Third, I think you have Tyquan, because Juju Smith-Schuster cannot do the things that Tyquan can do as far as stretching the field. Is he 4th? You want him on the field over Hollywood Brown? I mean, maybe. There's a lot of speed overlap with Tyquan and Xavier, but speed kills. And outside of the first half-ish of a game of the season against the Chargers, Hollywood's been pretty steady, pretty sturdy. And then, after that, you're looking at your rookie, right? You want to get Jalen Royals on the field. He played just 14 snaps this past game and had no targets, but you don't want him to stay there. I don't know what happens with Juju Smith-Schuster once Rashee Rice comes back from injury. He's going to continue to get reps, I believe. He has performed too well outside of the Philadelphia game, where he had 1 reception for 5 yards. He has performed too well to find himself benched all the time. He has not been all-world. He has not been game-changing, but he has been game-continuing. Right? All year, he has come up with those catches that give the Chiefs another first down. He's come up with those catches that all of a sudden mean the Chiefs get to keep the drive going. That is what you're getting from Juju Smith-Schuster, and that's important. How do you weigh it? Do you weigh the importance of a guaranteed catch higher than you're weighing the potentiality for someone like Rashee Rice to break one for 40 yards? It's a difficult call, especially considering that by the time Rashee Rice comes back, you will be 6 games into the season. You are now 2-2. If all of a sudden you find yourself 4-2 by the time Rashee Rice gets back, it's difficult because you have the rhythm on your side. You have started winning these games. Do you really want to change the formula all that much? Those are the offensive notes that I have from the Chiefs versus the Ravens. An absolute molly-whopping. If you like or appreciate this sort of thing, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other Kansas City Chiefs fans. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, the Chiefs are the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.